Hello and welcome to our Lakeside chat. We are David Wofford and Katie Noonan, co-chairs of the Rotary Nature Center Friends. And we're so happy that you can join us tonight.
As we begin our program, it is important for us to acknowledge that we are on stolen land, that Lake Merritt is part of Ohlone territory. We hear now from Corinna Gould, spokesperson for the Confederated Villages of LaShawn and co-founder of Segura Te Land Trust.
Good afternoon, relatives. My name is Corinna Gould. I am the spokesperson for the Confederated Villages of LaShawn. We are here today at what most folks think of as Lake Merritt. We are in the territory of Huichin. Huichin is actually a territory that encompasses 6 Bay Area cities: Oakland, Berkeley, Alameda, Emeryville, Albany, and Piedmont. And so this is a place that my ancestors have been since the beginning of time. And this was a place of abundance. I'm so happy that people from all walks of life that now come into our territory can enjoy this beautiful place that my ancestors have enjoyed since the beginning of time. My relationship to the land that I have been born to, raising my children and grandchildren here, has been to tell the story, the truth of what happened on this land before other people came here. I'm hoping that as we begin to learn these lessons of fires in California, the pandemic that's happening, that human beings come back to living in reciprocity with the earth.
Thank you, Corinna, for an important message. And we're at a disheartening time, but we have to have hope that the insights that the Ohlone are providing for us and the wisdom that they have to share will guide us into a better future. So I want to acknowledge and thank Corinna for her group's stewardship and for her insights and for being with us tonight at the beginning of our program. So we are Rotary Nature Center Friends. And Rotary Nature Center Friends is an independent 501c3 nonprofit founded in 2021, providing online and in-person programming for all the people of Oakland. We engage the community in real science and stewardship activities, bringing nature and people together in the heart of downtown Oakland to steward the nation's first wildlife refuge, the Lake Merritt Wildlife Refuge. The focus of our activities is community science, water testing, plankton monitoring, diversity monitoring. These are great ways to get around interacting with and appreciating and getting to know our environment. And we build community and understanding of the natural world we live in by working with all generations together at the lake and serving primarily kids of color in Oakland from public and private schools and programs that we provide, working with organizations that share our vision, like Save the Bay and other organizations, and educating through Lakeside chats and other vehicles a greater understanding of our environment and the ways that the environment affects low-income and marginalized members of our community. We'd like to take a moment to thank all of our sponsors. We've been blessed with a number of wonderful support groups this year. It's made possible wonderful activities. I just share a couple of them before we start our program. We have been working with the Alameda County Clean Water program to bring some high school students to Glen Echo Creek, which is a tributary to Lake Merritt, to learn about the environment and also to begin a stewardship project we're very excited about. We've also started a California Naturalist Certification program and graduated our first group of 19 certified naturalists, and we're excited. We're putting together our next course for the fall, and encourage you, if you're interested, to inquire by signing up on the Eventbrite. We'll get back to you with the particulars and costs and so forth for that program. Here's a picture of the finale of that class doing life program at Lake Merritt. We also work closely with the New Voices Are Rising program, studying water justice. And we have a great group of water justice fellows with us this summer. I mean, this last summer, last fall, and now. So they're a great group to be associated with. We're very proud of that association. Okay, so I am going to stop my share. If you would like to find out what we're doing, I encourage you to look at our Facebook page primarily because I put stuff up every day to let people know and see what we're doing. That's probably the best way to keep up with us. And certainly if you are interested in what we do and would like to support us, we do accept donations and targeted donations for specific projects if that's something that you would like to do. Okay. Well, we are early. Charlie, we are early today. So I would like to say how proud we are to have Charlie come back and talk to us again. He gave a wonderful talk in 2021. And now at that time, he has a really deep background with Save the Bay. At that time, he was developing curriculum and programs for youth and so forth. And currently, he is we will get this right. Charlie, help me out.
Corporate partnerships manager, fundraising.
Yes, I really thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, yeah, and Charlie brought many of his colleagues to Lake Merritt in August to have a quick view of all of the activities that we were doing there. And after that, many of them have been in communication with us, talking about how we can improve our stewardship of our little section of sort of demonstration natural shoreline that we take care of. So we're very appreciative for that connection. And so tonight, Charlie is going to talk to us about the climate resilient Bay Area, and all of the achievements and work and aspirations that have accumulated since we talked to him last in 2021 about Save the Bay. So let's talk about some quick housekeeping issues before we get started and turn over the podium to Charlie. So during Charlie's talk, please type any questions that you have into the chat. And you can also raise your hand if you'd like to. We will take questions at appropriate times. If Charlie has a moment where he thinks it's a good time to pause and take those questions, we'll do that. Otherwise, we will take the questions at the end of the program. And again, we'll call on people whose hands are raised. So please do not unmute yourself and ask a question out of the blue in the middle of the talk. But you'll definitely have a chance to ask Charlie in person at the end if you wish to do so. And then we often we have a ending at 8 o'clock where we kind of bring our final slides up and everything. But generally, our speakers, we ask them if they might be available for more discussion afterwards. And Charlie, you'd be able to stay after 8 for a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic. Okay, so please, we'll get to all of your questions and you'll be able to talk to Charlie during this program. So, well, then, let me see. I'm going to formally introduce Charlie with, yes. Okay, so our speaker tonight is Charlie Onorati. His real first name is GianCarlo, and he was born and raised in Los Angeles and grew up exploring the Santa Monica Mountains. In 2014, he moved to the Bay Area to teach at the San Mateo Outdoor Education facility and has stayed in the Bay Area ever since. He's worked with youth development and environmental education all over California and loves being with students and bringing them out to the shoreline to explore their connections and to build a sense of responsibility. Charlie likes to return to the redwoods frequently and hike and explore all over the region. And so, thank you, Charlie, for coming and talking to us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I turn the podium over to you. And please
Great.
fill in anything I left out.
No, that was perfect. And yeah, I'm grateful to be here, and I wanted to take a quick second just to thank David and Katie for all the work that they do for the community. I'm lucky to have met Katie 6 years ago, and we've worked together in different capacities. And David I've met and worked with a couple times, and just grateful for all that you both do for the community, for Oakland. So thank you. And thank you for inviting me here. I'm excited to talk to you all. I'll give a brief history of Save the Bay. I know Katie gave some history in the quiz that we all had before this. And then, yeah, I'll talk about what Save the Bay does, some of the challenges that we're trying to address with our work, and then give basically a progress report on, the state of the Bay, at the end. And again, I welcome your questions. You can put them in the chat. You can also, I'm not sure if we have the raise hand function, but if that exists, would love to hear other people's voices. Great to see people's faces too. So thanks for joining. I want to start with an invitation and just to hear from you all, a little word association. What do you think of when you think of the San Francisco Bay? You can let me know in the chat. I'm going to have it open so that I can see. If you were to close your eyes and hear San Francisco Bay, what pops into your head? Pax says estuary. Camera said home. 2016 Warriors, okay. That one bridge that we all drive over for sure. Mud and birds, cold waters, yes, all the above. We all have a different relationship to the Bay, and one of our goals at Save the Bay, and my job really, is to get people to think about that relationship. So oftentimes, like my friend said, who was that? Sujot, that one bridge that you drive over. Oftentimes, a lot of people, you drive over the bridge or you take BART into the city, go underwater. You're not really thinking about the Bay that much. We want to put it at the top of people's minds. We want them to reflect on, the impact that they have on the Bay every day, and the impact that the Bay has on them. And hopefully they get to a point where they can recognize what the Bay gives them and kind of return that, reciprocate that generosity that the Bay gives us every day. Because whether we work in the cities or if we could see the Bay from our homes, maybe we go to the shoreline to ride our bikes, take a walk, recreate. We think of the Bay as this beautiful place, vibrant resource, and a body of water that connects all of us. Water, sunshine, and fun. Thank you, David. Yeah, that's how I picture it too, but it hasn't always been that way, right? So, and this is the genesis of our organization. In the early 1960s, the primary use of the Bay, other than as a shipping channel, was to dispose of sewage and garbage. So you could smell raw sewage getting pumped into the Bay. At night, you could see heaps of trash that were brought to the shoreline and set on fire. And with an average depth of 14 feet at that time, it was relatively easy to create new land. We would bring bay fill, whether it's leftovers from a construction site or just garbage, pour cement on top, soil on top, and we would use that new land to build infrastructure, bridges, airports, businesses, homes, all that stuff. So in the 100 years leading up to 1960, there was an average of 4 square miles of the Bay that was filled in every year. And so the result was the size of the Bay reduced by a third, which affected the water quality greatly. It was really nasty, not a good place to swim. We also lost 90% of the tidal marsh wetlands that used to ring the entire bay throughout the region. And this is where our founders came in, who some of you already knew, so props to you. Sylvia McLaughlin, Esther Gulick, and Kay Kerr were living in Berkeley at the time. They saw what was happening to the bay, and they came together. They started a grassroots campaign, went door to door, raised money, and they helped create the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, BCDC. And it's an institution that still exists today. And the main function of that institution is to regulate development along the shoreline and pollution flowing from the cities. They also created Save the San Francisco Bay Association, what is now called Save the Bay. And we continue to build on their legacy. Our mission is to protect and restore the San Francisco Bay for people and wildlife. We envision a clean and healthy bay, free of pollution and ringed by 100,000 acres of tidal marsh wetlands. And we achieve that vision in three main ways. We advocate for policies that benefit the bay and our community. We actively restore the tidal marsh habitat that we've lost over the years. And we engage the community in both of these pillars of our work. And of course, now our mission is even more important in the face of climate change. We have seen just recently this winter the effects of sea level rise and larger winter storms paired with high tides and how much flooding we can see because of that. So, speaking of flooding, when it comes to the impacts of climate change that our work really focuses on, we are focused on sea level rise. This picture, it shows this mapping tool that you can use. It's called Adapting to Rising Tides. And Katie, if you have the link to that and you can pop it in the chat, then people can open it up and kind of poke around for themselves. But this was a project that was done in partnership by the San Francisco Estuary Institute and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, NOAA. And you could basically look at different scenarios of sea level rise, of large winter storms, and high tide events. And what this is showing on the left, you can see nothing going on. On the right, we're looking at 12 inches of sea level rise and a 5-year storm surge. That means 12 inches, which is a moderate projection for 2050, according to NOAA, and the surge of waves that we would experience from an average storm every 5 years. You can see these blue areas are where flooding will occur, and where the deeper the blue is, the deeper underwater those areas are. So, another invitation. What jumps out at you when looking at this? What do you notice? Let me know in the chat, or if you feel like it, come off mute and let me know your thoughts. Oh, thank you, Katie. There's the Adapting to Rising Tides, so people can explore on their own.
Yes, Charlie, keep shouting them out and I'll get them in there, okay?
I will, yes, absolutely. What do people notice looking at this map? I'm sure many of you have flown out of Oakland International Airport, which you can see here. Maybe SFO, which you can see right here. Foster City is going to be underwater. A lot of the South Bay is experiencing flooding, and the North Bay as well. So this is our future. And the work that we're doing at Save the Bay and the work that you can help support will prepare us for this future and mitigate the impacts that we're seeing already. So, what are we doing about it? I want to start by talking about our advocacy work. And that work is focused on preparing the Bay Area for sea level rise. We have the sea level rise and flood resilience strategy that we published a couple of years ago. And that strategy really has three main focuses. One is to make sure that flood resilience is top of mind for city planners and for funding for city development. We want to make sure that we're elevating the value of nature-based solutions to climate change issues, and I'll talk more about what nature-based solutions are. And then also we want to make sure that these nature-based solutions are in communities that are disproportionately experiencing environmental hazards like flooding, like dirty air, like dirty water. And that's important for social justice pieces. What does that look like? This is our most recent effort centering flood resilience and city planning. Thank you for popping all those in, Katie. If you want to play around with some of these maps, I have a lot of maps to show everybody, and they're all interactive, so you can explore as well. So this is an example of our advocacy work in action. This is Newark, California, Baylands. This is called the Pick and Pull Auto Scrapyard. So you can see it's surrounded on all three sides by water. You have a creek running this way. You've got the bay here. And then on this side, you've just got open space. It's a park. There's a company that wants to develop this parcel of land into 200 housing units. And you can imagine the issues here, right? We are going to experience flooding. And while we agree at Save the Bay that housing is a huge issue in California and we do need more housing, building it here is not what we think is a good idea. So the Newark City Council is going to vote to approve or deny this development plan, and our advocacy team is working to make sure that they don't. And there's another, oh yeah, Katie just posted it. So you can learn more about this this development project and how to get involved if you're interested. I mentioned we want to elevate nature-based solutions, but what are they? Let's define it. When we think about traditional solutions to something like sea level rise, we see levees and seawalls. So using like earth and concrete to build walls to keep water out of our community. Nature-based solutions, they perform the job of these traditional types of infrastructure and add additional benefits to humans and wildlife. So instead of concrete walls and levees, we want to see what's called a living shoreline. You can see in this picture, instead of a seawall, just concrete at the end of our community between us and the water, we'd rather see some oyster reefs. So this is an oyster reef restoration project in San Rafael. You can see the bridge there as well. Some examples of nature-based solutions. Some you might be familiar with are what we call green infrastructure. Things like green roofs, permeable pavement in the parking lot or the driveway, planter boxes along city streets that provide shade and habitat for birds and small mammals. Save the Bay is a huge advocate for green stormwater infrastructure. You can see this rain garden in this picture here. It's really beautiful. Things like rain gardens, curb extensions, these types of infrastructure help replenish groundwater. They filter pollution. They provide habitat for pollinators, birds, and small mammals, all while doing the traditional storm drain function of directing water. And this is what we want to see more of. And so our policy team will lead tours of green infrastructure in different cities with elected officials and people from the community, just to make sure people know what it is and why it's beneficial.
Charlie, have you done one at Lake Merritt? There's a lot of green infrastructure that was put in by the DD program. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, no, we haven't done one in Oakland yet. We did it at San Jose and we did one in San Mateo.
Oakland's got some great stuff.
They do, they do. I'll let the team know, and you can be a speaker too.
Sure.
So another nature-based solution example that you might not be familiar with is something called a horizontal levee. So as opposed to a concrete wall or an earthen mound, these horizontal levees, you can see from this cartoon photo in the top right, they gently slope from the shoreline to the community, and they're vegetated with native plants. So in addition to keeping water out of the community, they also sequester carbon, they provide habitat for sensitive species, they clean water and they clean air, all of these additional benefits. in this picture, this is one of our sites. In this picture on the left here, you can see the picture on the bottom. This is Greco Island down in Menlo Park. This is a restored tidal marsh. And on the right side here, the Ravenswood salt ponds. This is old salt pond complex that's no longer used. And that yellow arrow pointing down, this is where the levee was breached and the bay was allowed to flood in this hundreds of acres of former salt ponds. And what Save the Bay did was revegetate this horizontal levee here. This is one of two sites in this area, and I'll talk more about that. But another benefit of these horizontal levees is as the bay waters flow in, they bring with them sediment, they bring aquatic plants, and if the horizontal levee is here, the water, the plants, they're allowed to move in and kind of take up space naturally, which wouldn't be possible if we had another earthen mound or a concrete wall. So it's habitat, it's sequestering carbon, it's all the good things, and it's still performing the function that the community needs. Okay, that's our advocacy work. I wanted to just pause here to see if anyone has any questions. You can pop them in the chat. Again, I appreciate seeing some faces. Would love to see some questions, if any at all. But oh, Katie.
Yeah, could you say a little bit more about how carbon is sequestered in these marshes? What does that mean?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Hope I'm not being too jargony with everybody. So, some of us probably know that global warming and climate change is attributed mainly to human-caused carbon being let into the atmosphere, right? Using all different types of fossil fuels puts carbon and methane into the atmosphere, which heats up the planet, which is changing the climate globally. And so one of the main things that we need to do is take that carbon back out of the atmosphere. And there's a bunch of different ways you could do that. There are some companies, especially here in the Bay Area, that do direct carbon capture with machines. There's a bunch of different ways and really cool, innovative things happening. And nothing does as well as Mother Earth. So tidal marshes are really good at sequestering carbon. They pull carbon out of the atmosphere faster than forests, and because you can kind of see in this picture here in the middle, they accrete sediment, and so as they sequester carbon and these plants live their life, they're performing photosynthesis, they're breathing, they're taking carbon out of the atmosphere. They're being covered by mud, and so that carbon is not going back into the atmosphere. So not only do they soak it up at faster rates, but they actually keep it out of the atmosphere longer, which again is super important when it comes to battling climate change and meeting that challenge. Thank you, Katie. Any other questions? Moving on. Oh, thanks for the claps. So this is a goal that was set in 1994, but we are part of this regional goal to restore 100,000 acres of tidal marsh wetlands. Now, I mentioned before when our organization was founded that we had lost 90% of the tidal marshes that used to surround the entire Bay Area. And there's estimates that at that time, before colonization, that there used to be around 200 to 250,000 acres of tidal marsh. And so we're trying to get back to a healthy place. We will never have as much as was historically here, but 100,000 acres is what was deemed the best to prepare us for climate change. And so this puzzle shows where we are, where we were, and what we still need. And I'll talk more about this later. And I've mentioned a couple of these benefits before, but you might be asking why I'm so excited about tidal marsh and other types of wetland habitats, which is a fair question. So these are the benefits that wetlands provide humans and wildlife. They filter water flowing from our communities. They support the economy through tourism, and they serve as nurseries for commercial fish like salmon and trout. They are biodiversity hotspots, habitat for a lot of different species, and here 2 endangered species in the Bay Area. They're beautiful open spaces that benefit public health, and people like to use them to recreate. And again, they are really important in meeting the challenge of climate change, both by protecting shoreline communities from sea level rise and flooding, and by taking carbon out of the atmosphere and putting it into plants. So that's why we love tidal marsh wetlands. And this is the specific habitat that we work in right on the edge. And this is a before and after photo of one of our sites in Palo Alto. And our goal in our habitat restoration is to increase biodiversity, and we want to see better habitat structure. So you can see in this left side, granted, this was probably taken late summer, so everything looks dead, but it's flat. You see maybe one or two different types of plants, and a lot of dirt. And then on the right side, you can see a couple years later, maybe 3 or 4 different types of plants. You can see it's not as flat anymore. It has like this kind of gradient here. So again, we're increasing biodiversity. We see many different numbers of plants in the same area. And we have tall plants, we have small plants, and we have everything in between. And that habitat structure supports different birds and mammals and insects. We're trying to go for both of those things. All right, another invitation. These are some of the plants that we grow. So, pop quiz. You can write in the chat, who knows what these plants are? I can't say that you can get another prize. Oh, Amanda said poppy, California poppy. Nice. Well done, Amanda. Other people said poppy. Sticky monkey flower. Nice. So California poppy down here in the bottom left. State flower, of course. Great for pollinators. Pack said sticky monkey flower down here in the bottom right. Anybody know these other plants? Sagebrush. Nice. Katie. This is California sagebrush right here in the middle. Great drought resistant plant if you want to put it in your yard and use less water. And these two up here are maybe a little more obscure. This you've probably seen if you hike anywhere around the hills in the Bay Area. You'll see this is coyote brush. So coyote brush is native to the entire west coast of the U.S. Oh, someone said mustard. Good guess, Joy. This does look like the same yellow as mustard, and it's often found in the same place. However, mustard is a non-native species from Europe. This is Western goldenrod, and this is a really great plant and one that we plant because it's really good at fighting against erosion. And that's because it has these underground stems called rhizomes that tangle with each other, and they do a really good job of holding soil together. And I'll talk a little bit more about rhizomes in a couple slides. These are just 5 of the 30 different species that we grow. And if you come and volunteer with us at our Oakland nursery, you can hang out with these plants, get to know them more, nurture them, and then join us on the shoreline to put them in the ground. This year, we are going to plant and maintain 30 acres at 6 different sites in Alameda, San Mateo, Santa Clara, and Marin. And I wanted to share some of these projects that are a little bit new and exciting for me, and hopefully exciting for you too. And the first one is here at the Ravenswood Salt Ponds. This is the picture that I showed before. So this is a project that is a smaller piece of the largest restoration project on the West Coast. It's the South Bay Salt Ponds Restoration Project. Katie, I don't know if I included that link, but we have 2 sites here. Can people see my cursor, by the way? Katie, can you see me when I move my arrow?
Okay.
Yeah, Betsy, it looks like you can. Okay, cool.
Sorry, Charlie, which one are you heading for?
That's all right.
Which link?
I think. Oh no, I don't think I added it actually, but I heard from Betsy that you could see my cursor, so I'm gonna.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you, Pac, as well. Yeah, so we have 2 sites in this area. One is alongside Bedwell Bayfront Park here. This is the west side of Dumbarton Bridge. So there's this long strip here, and then this really long strip here. This is a horizontal levee called the All-American Canal. And these two sites together total to 26 acres, which is the largest site that Save the Bay has ever had. And because it's so big, we had to try new strategies. Normally, we plant individual plants in pots because we're doing 1, maybe 3 acres. This is 26 acres, so we really had to be strategic and creative. And so we worked with some biologists to come up with this plan where we focused on these rhizomatous plants. So I mentioned Western goldenrod is one of them, and there was 4 other species. So they have these underground stems that do a really good job of holding soil together. And we planted them in these raised beds. We then chopped off all of the above ground vegetation. We cut these soil sod pieces into little brownies, and we put them on the shoreline. And then we had a farmer come and disc them into the soil. So this was a way to revegetate 26 acres in a couple of days. Obviously, a lot of time growing plants, but putting them out into the soil only took about a week, which is really incredible. And huge shout out to Farmer Frank from Fremont, who was really excited to help with this project. And the idea is that these plants will spread underground and shoot up, and they'll be able to colonize the area and like take it over, keep invasive species from coming back, keep the weeds out basically, and then we can come back with potted plants to increase the biodiversity and the habitat quality. And this is what it looks like now. So you can see when we started, literally just dirt, and this is 3 years in. So pretty exciting. You can see some of the diversity patches, those potted plants that I mentioned. You can see where some of these sod pieces got tilled into the soil. So this is exciting because it's the largest project that we had, and it was a successful strategy that other organizations can use as well throughout the Bay Area. This is another more recent project, and it's an example of how nature-based solutions can address multiple issues facing the community in East Palo Alto. So you can see here, this is the Palo Alto wastewater treatment plant. Katie had a question about what happened to the fish in Lake Merritt in 2018. Is that right, Katie?
2022, August
2022.
28th.
August 28th,
2022.
2022.
Yeah, that was the bad
So
day.
yeah, and it was August, which is true. So what happens is the water that we use in our homes, in our businesses, flows to these wastewater treatment centers. Sometimes it goes straight to the bay, depending on where you live. It's treated, it's cleaned, and then that water is used to water golf courses sometimes, like you can see here, the Baylands Golf Links, water the divisions and freeways and things like that. And sometimes it's just dumped into the bay even after it's cleaned. The issue is that it still has contaminants in it, and one of the biggest ones that is the culprit for fish die-offs and algal blooms is nutrients. It has all of these nutrients from our waste that don't get cleaned in the treatment process. So years ago, Save the Bay was brought to do an experiment with UC Berkeley, and they wanted to see how tidal marsh wetlands, being the livers of the earth, how well they could further clean the treated wastewater. And so we did this experiment. We made an artificial levee, we planted it, and it was irrigated with treated wastewater from Oraloma in Union City. And what they found was the horizontal levee significantly removed both nitrogen and phosphate, which are both nutrients that cause algal blooms. And they were removing pharmaceuticals as well. So that also gets into the water in our waste treatment center from our waste and other ways. Not only did it remove those, they also found that there was more bioactivity in the soil, and that was taking up even more nitrogen. So it was a huge success, and that led to us being called in to help with this Palo Alto horizontal levee here. And so this is going to be the first levee to have irrigated, treated wastewater on it that flows to the bay. And it'll be further cleaned, protecting the fish, providing habitat, protecting the shoreline from sea level rise and flooding. And we just started that this winter, and this is what it looks like now. So you can see the horizontal levee here, all the way down to the baylands. All of our little sprouts are coming up, which is really exciting. Okay, is it working? Now we get to our progress report. Does anyone have any questions before I go on? Oh, thank you, Pac. Yeah, Pac just shared a link to the Palo Alto Horizontal Levee Pilot Project, which I encourage everyone to check out. So the Wetland Regional Monitoring Program is the place to go for updates on that 100,000 acre goal. It's run by the SFBay joint venture, and it's updated every 5 years. So the last report was in 2020, so we should see a report coming out soon with hopefully good news. But as of 2020, there was 53,700 acres restored in the bay. So we expect to see that number to go up, obviously, and I am eagerly awaiting the updates. So you can check out their website, Wetland Regional Monitoring Program, if you also want to see how things have changed in the last 5 years. The other really cool thing about the Wetland Regional Monitoring Program is they put all of the projects that have been published on a map. So you can see what is happening in your community on the Eco Atlas map. If you go, I know Katie put the link in here, so another map that you can play around with, but we're looking at Oakland here. Again, you can do the entire state, so it's really interesting to see what kind of work is happening. But these green dots you can see here, this is the Lake Merritt and Lake Merritt Channel Improvement Projects. Over here in West Oakland, we have the Middle Harbor Enhancement Projects. Here at where the lake meets the bay proper, we've got the Oakland Alameda Estuary Adaptation Project and all these other ones. So you can click on these dots and you can see who's involved in these projects, what organizations, what institutions, and how you can get involved too. It's a really cool map that I encourage everyone to poke around in. What about the wildlife? How are the birds doing? You can read the latest State of the Birds report. This is created by SFBay Joint Venture and Point Blue Conservation Science. And I just pulled a draft that's specifically looking at tidal marshes because that's what I've been talking about this whole time. And so this map, which is great, shows a positive trend for the abundance of these indicator species. So these are species that show these species show up in a healthy tidal marsh. And you can see that they've all gone up in the past 30 years, which is great. So the song sparrow, the common yellowthroat, and the black rail. Unfortunately, we can't say the same for the endangered Ridgway's rail, whose abundance went down in the last 7 years. There's a lot more information on the website about why this might be true, maybe that it's plateauing. So it's not, we don't know if this is a real trend, but the more that we restore, the more habitat there is for these little birds. On the policy side, we have made progress advising cities on how to prepare for flooding. So we created what we call snapshots for 42 cities that have shorelines in the Bay Area. And basically, we took the key principles from our flood resilience strategy and we turned them into a standardized list of policies. These came from regional guidance, expert knowledge, and what was currently being used or implemented in cities. And in the end, we came to 25 policy recommendations and we graded each city on whether or not these policies existed there. And so this is another map. I'm all about the maps today, but this is another map that will be live on our website. Should be this weekend. But you can look at the entire Bay Area. Any city that has a shoreline has these snapshots. So we're looking at Oakland and Alameda. And you can see the map is showing what flooding would happen if there was sea level rise of 6.5 feet, which is a really large projection, but it really kind of nails home the message. These blue and orange shields, blue and red shields are emergency services, and these yellow orange dots in between, these are contaminated sites. So looking at Oakland, you can see some of the vulnerabilities. We see a lot of flooding in low income communities of color in West Oakland and East Oakland. These are also communities that have contaminated sites. So there is a risk of these contaminated sites coming into contact with the groundwater and poisoning the water. So we want the city of Oakland to prioritize cleanup of contaminated sites. We also want them to establish a design standard to take flood risk into account when planning future developments. Some cool things that are happening in Oakland are they are currently updating their storm drain master plan. Hopefully, we'll see some green infrastructure like we do at Lake Merritt in more parts of Oakland. And Oakland and Alameda have teamed up to create the Oakland Alameda Adaptation Committee, which is currently planning the Oakland Alameda Estuary project to be resilient to 5.5 feet of sea level rise, which is great. So if you were to click on one of these Oakland or Alameda snapshots, this is the report that you would see. This is the full report. So these are the 25 policies that we recommend every city should have. And we go through city planning documents. It's a lot of work for 42 cities. It took about a year and a half, and we're saying what they're doing, what they're not doing, and what they are in the process of doing. Finally, what can you do? We really hope that you'll join us, learn more at our climate conversations. We do these quarterly. You can find them on our website. I'll share a link with Katie who can send it out to you all. But these are virtual panels. We bring elected officials and climate leaders, scientists together to discuss sea level rise, the challenges that we're facing, and what's going to work to prepare us. Some past themes include groundwater rise, exploring horizontal levees, affordable housing in the environment, and we did an episode on voting for climate resilience in 2024. You can volunteer with us. You can get your hands dirty at one of our public volunteer events. Bring your company or your community work. Thank you. Thanks, Katie. If you are part of a church or a temple, you can bring those community groups out. And if you have children or grandchildren, you can let your teachers know that we do free field trips, which is really important because we want to make sure that every student in the Bay Area has quality environmental education outdoors. So since 2016, we have been subsidizing and now we pay fully for the cost of transportation to the shoreline. Last year, the average cost was $650, which is a lot of money for underserved schools. And so these bus stipends really allow us to proactively partner with Title I schools and schools that just have less resources. We also continue to expand our capacity to deliver bilingual programs because there's a lot of bilingual people in the Bay Area. This is the last map I'll show you, and this is one that Katie shared and you can poke around in, but I really want to drive home the kind of social justice piece of this. So this is the Environmental Justice Screening and Mapping Tool. This was created by the EPA some years ago, and it takes data from the Census Bureau, from the United States Geological Survey, the Bureau of Land Management, and the EPA. And what you can do is you can put side by side or lay over top environmental indicators and socioeconomic indicators. So what we're looking at here is on the left side, we're seeing flood risk. And on the right, we're seeing the percent of households in these areas that are considered low income. And so, unfortunately, as you can see, and as is often the case, it's the people with the least that are the most at risk. And these are the places where we want to see shoreline resilience projects, habitat restoration, and these types of green infrastructure in these frontline communities. For calls to action, please tune in, subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on social channels. You can dig in with us and volunteer. We volunteer every Saturday morning and some Thursday afternoons. If you can, donate to Save the Bay and to Lake Merritt Rotary Nature Center friends. Just keep this work, really important work, going. And then share what you learned today. Let people know about Save the Bay. Let people know about Lakeside Chats. Um, yeah, the more people hear about it, the better it is. That is the end of my presentation, and I really appreciate everyone's time. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Charlie. That was an amazing amount of information. I just loved all of the resources that you gave us. This is really great.
Yeah, please check out some of those maps. There's really cool information, and they're all interactive, so you can learn a lot and spend a lot of time on those maps.
And so many opportunities to get engaged individually.
Absolutely.
Whatever your resources and background, there's something that you can learn and contribute. I love it. We definitely would like to take some questions if you'd like to raise your hand. We have about 5 minutes of that, and then we have a short closing slides bit that I will do, and then we'll open it up for more questions. So please raise your hands or to ask Charlie a question. Let's see, how do we do this? Oh, okay.
Oh, Jerry. Jerry asked if we have info on the carbon sequestration of these rehabilitated marshes. Yes, let me bring up
Good question.
a different slide deck that I have. This data comes from the San Francisco Estuary Institute. So 1 acre of tidal marsh sequesters almost a half metric ton of carbon per year. And that's equivalent to 881 pounds. And 1 metric ton of carbon would fill a sphere 32 feet in diameter. So that's what this image is trying to show you. So this is what 1 metric ton of carbon would look like at scale next to a human being. 1 acre of tidal marsh sequesters almost half of this. I appreciate that question, Jerry. Planned retreat. Good question, Pack. I know of planned retreat on the East Coast, in places like North Carolina. I don't know about planned retreat here in the Bay Area. And for those who are not familiar, there are some programs where the government, whether it's the state or the federal government, will pay you to move, basically. I think that's correct. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but knowing that sea level is rising, knowing that you might not be able to sell your home, or you're just going to have to deal with flooding as time goes on, they're encouraging people to move away, to retreat from the ocean. See a lot of excitement in the chat. Thank you. Is there any opportunities for high schools to help out? Absolutely. You can find my email and shoot me an email, and I'll set you up with the Habitat Restoration team so you can do a volunteer event. You can also check out our website. Our calendar has all of our open events, I think, through the year. So join us.
I'd like to add that although the Lake Merritt is very small compared to the vast bay, and our resources and our experience is far less, but we do have opportunities to check out Lake Merritt, which is often very close to local schools. Check out the where nature and the urban environment come together, and there are some surprises there, some good surprises, and a lot to
And
learn.
accessible by BART.
Oh yeah, there are many schools in walking distance, and certainly on a weekend. I've rarely met a high school student who has not been to Lake Merritt.
I have a question. Oh,
Yeah.
give my. Well, earlier tonight you talked about a project in the city of Newark, and it
Yeah,
seems to be that there was a sort of a conservation open space project versus a more traditional or standard development. And you mentioned the number of houses
right.
or homes that will be included in, I believe, the open space park as 300 homes. And I wondered if you had the other number.
It was 200 homes in that parcel of land. Yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
And that's in the public space proposal, the one that's
Um,
more.
no, it's just so
Oh,
that the scrapyard is private land owned by the junk people. So though they're trying to sell their land to a development company who would build the 200 units of housing.
I see.
Everything else around it is city land.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, David, there's a link in the chat too that Katie's put in that has more info about the Hayward, excuse
Okay.
me, the Newark shoreline development.
We will have a post-chat email send out really soon, and I'll repeat these links that Charlie shared so that you could have another look at them if you didn't copy them. Great. Well, maybe this is an okay time to pause and take for us to do our concluding slides. I wanted to thank San Francisco Estuary Partnership for all of their many conferences that they have where we get to talk to so many people helping to take care of the San Francisco Bay, including, of course, Save the Bay, and also San Francisco Estuary Institute. So I want to thank everybody for coming here tonight and hope we will see you again in April. Special thanks to Charlie Onorati and Save the Bay, and all of these other organizations and institutions that are focused on helping to take care of our environment here in the San Francisco Bay region. I want to remind everybody again that Rotary Nature Center Friends is an independent 501c3 nonprofit. We are not part of the city of Oakland in any way, so we are a all-volunteer charitable organization. Coming up, we have a number of things planned we'd like to let you know about. On April 3rd, we're going to have our next Lakeside Chat, number 65. Called Raptors Are the Solution with Lisa Owens-Viani. She's going to talk to us about how to take care of these pests that are plaguing our houses and yards and vegetable gardens in an ecologically responsible way, including, I believe, there's some experiments on birth control for rats. So I'm really kind of excited to see what she has to say about that. We have plankton monitoring now that is going on every week on Thursday mornings. We do the plankton tow at 9:30, and we view it from 10 to 11 in the Junior Center for Art and Science, just a few doors down on Bellevue Avenue, where the public can take pictures and take a look at past views of the plankton in Lake Merritt, really take part in real community science to see what that community is like and how it changes from week to week. We're going to be celebrating Earth Day on April 18th at the Sailboat House Beach at 568 Bellevue, and doing all of our usual stuff, including taking care of the little stretch of is called the Sailboat House Beach or Marsh, and we'll be planting native plants and weeding non-natives and learning about them. And then on the 25th of April, we will be participating in the Cal Academy City Nature Challenge with a table at Lake Merritt, trying to document using the iNaturalist app as many different species that are in our local community, contributing it to a Greater Bay Area group or do they call it? A project in competition with other cities around the world. So that should be fun. And then we are looking forward to some great Lakeside chats coming up, just a couple of them. On May 4th, Christina Fall from the Rhoda Goldman Chair in Environmental Science at Mills College at Northeastern University will talk to us. And on the 9th, Andrew Alden will talk about the lakes of Oakland, both Lake Merritt and Lake Temescal being in the focus. I'd like to thank the City of Oakland for rebroadcasting our Lakeside chats. Our chats are recorded and are lightly edited into a 1-hour period by our producer, Rob Lamone, so that they can be rebroadcast every Sunday from 6 to 7 on KTOP TV. So they reach a fairly wide audience. And the first 2 Sundays of the month are devoted to the Golden Oldies. And then the last 2 will be devoted, Sundays of the month will be devoted to that month's current Lakeside chat. If you enjoy what we do, please consider making a donation to Rotary Nature Center Friends. We have so many projects. We offer them to the community for free, and we really appreciate your support. We're primary stewards of Lake Merritt Wildlife Refuge. We regularly host school groups and members of the general population at Lake Merritt for all of these wonderful activities. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we hope to see you soon. Yeah, great. So anyway, thank you for sticking with us here, and we are ready to open the mic for more questions.
The answer is no. They absorb the energy of water because they're vegetated and it's made of soil. That's not true for things like seawalls or concrete levees. So those will often you'll see, especially down the coast of California, places that have seawalls are redirecting that wave energy, and you get my mom grew up in Santa Barbara, and there's a huge issue with sand being pulled off the beaches, and that's because of breakways and seawalls and things like that. So, no, the horizontal levees, because they're made of soil and have plants, they absorb the flooding. And tidal marsh soil is really silty, so it can hold a lot of water.
Building on to Pac's question about the horizontal levees, can you tell us a little bit more about how some of the structures like seawalls and jetties and things like that can actually, which are hardened and they're not as absorbent and cushy as the marsh areas, how they actually might divert water and storm surge and whatever to less affluent areas of the coastline? Because I mean,
Yeah,
it's an environmental justice issue.
Totally, yes, it is. So there are, in some communities that can afford it, right, with the taxes that city or that community gets from the people who live there, they can build a seawall if that's what they choose to do. And then there are other places that don't have the funds and the resources to do that. So again, if you imagine taking a basketball and like throwing it onto the ground, it bounces up if you're on, a basketball court. And then you take that same basketball and you throw it onto sand, it doesn't bounce. That's the idea. So the wave, the energy is absorbed by the natural shoreline. And Katie, you're right. If it's a hardened shoreline, whether it's a seawall or a hardened levee, the energy is just redirected to other places, and those places might not have the resources to protect themselves. So it is a social justice, environmental justice issue. Yeah, this is a Pact asked how can hardened places like Lake Merritt become more resilient? There are a lot of places in the Bay Area where it's not possible to restore tidal marsh anymore. The Embarcadero of San Francisco, Treasure Island, Lake Merritt. These are all places that um, the water level is high enough where we're not able to, put in plants in these areas. What we can do is restore where it is possible, a lot in the South Bay, a lot in the North Bay. And then the other thing that can make these more urban areas more resilient is the green stormwater infrastructure that I mentioned. So it's not just the sea level rise that is causing flooding. It's everything happening all at once. So we have family that live in Corte Madera, which is flooding this winter, and that was because it was a high tide. It was a king tide, which is the highest high tide of the year, and there was a big winter storm. So um, what we can do in these urban areas is we have more green stormwater infrastructure so that the water that's falling on the cities isn't running directly to the bottom of the watershed where it's flooding. It's getting absorbed into the ground. Similarly, a couple of years ago, there was a bunch of flooding in um, San Francisco around like Mission Bay, Folsom Street. People were like kayaking on Folsom Street. And that's because the tide rises and it's pushing water into the storm drain system. And then there's a bunch of rain falling down, and that's just running through the city to the end of the watershed. And there's nowhere for it to go. So one way that these more urban areas can be more resilient is having ways to let that water percolate down into the groundwater instead of running to the bay.
We have excellent examples at Lake Merritt. I just like to mention my background, which is the Peralta wetlands. It's a Peralta Park in Oakland. It's had its travails over since it was begun in 2011, I believe. But we were able to go out there with our California Naturalist class last early in the year, and just amazing. We had the list of original plants and birds that were observed there, and it's amazing that quite a bit of them are still there. And it's kind of heartening for me to see a community put so much into building a wetland along a channel like the Lake Merritt Channel for people to learn and for two people to see what to experience all the the beauty and the wildlife that's still there.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Pac also said that even with stormwater infrastructure,
Mm.
the storms they're changing. We're seeing larger winter storms. We're seeing more rain at once. It's not spread out through the season. So those are ways that climate change is affecting weather here. A lot more atmospheric rivers, which is a phrase that I had never heard of until, like 5 years ago, and now we have them two or three every winter.
I was a little confused earlier when you were talking about earth mounds,
Yeah,
and I didn't follow the complete thought, so I wasn't clear whether or not earth mounds are sometimes used to stop water from going places, and that
yes,
they can sometimes be designed to allow water to go places.
yeah,
Is that what I
yes.
heard you say?
Yeah, so the shorelines are managed in a bunch of different ways and managed by a bunch of different people. So, um, ideally, we have what like these horizontal levees that Save the Bay is working on, these vegetated, gradually sloping levees. That's not possible everywhere. And so another strategy is to build the earthen mound levees that keep the water out. Sometimes they'll have tide gates so they can allow water into different ponds. And sometimes they do that on purpose for wildlife, for different types of birds. So yeah, the earthen mounds levees are used for different purposes, and it's a different strategy to address sea level rise. Thank you, Pac, for your questions.
And thank you.
Thank you, David. If there isn't any more questions, I have to go help with bedtime for my little one. But I really appreciate everyone coming, being able to share with you all. And thank you again, Katie, for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Charlie. So you can follow this up in your post-chat communication. Where can we find out about how Save the Bay is responding or able to cope with the changing political environment? Are you able to continue with your projects? Are you being seriously hobbled? What's going on?
Sorry, I was reading the chat as you said that. You're talking about
No, it's
funding?
okay. Go for it.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah, just I wonder about in the current political
Oh,
climate.
yeah.
How are you trying to
Yeah.
navigate that?
We're one of the luckier nonprofits. I think only 10% of our funding comes from the federal government. The rest comes from individuals. It comes from private foundations, and it comes from the state. So, I mean, there is impact there, but we luckily haven't had as much negative impact as some other nonprofits that rely on government funds. Some of the other things, like the EJ screen map that I shared, that the last time that was updated was in 2024. And, I don't think this administration is going to update that data, which is unfortunate because it's really informative. So,
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's all give Charlie a round of applause. And are there any more outstanding questions? You can send them to me and I'll forward them to Charlie. And this has just been a wonderful evening. I really appreciate your doing this for us. Thank
Happy
you
to be
so
here.
much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Everybody
we'll
have a
be
good night
following
and a good
Save the
weekend.
Bay.
Thank you,
Yes.
Katie and Charlie, on behalf of Mr. Thompson's AP Environmental Science class.
Woo, woo,
Thanks,
woo.
Cameron.
Thank you so much
Get
for
that
your
in
time.
there. Yes.
Wonderful presentation. Have a great night, everyone.
You too.
Excellent. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Charlie. I think we'll all say goodbye at this point. And really appreciate everybody being here tonight. Hope we'll see you again in about a month to talk about some things that we can do around our homes to deal with some of the ecological issues that we face with rodents and other pests in a responsible way. So thank you again so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great month.